Welcome to Business Connection. I'm Liz Spencer. We have wonderful guests in studio. We have Dennise Vaughn, President, and Paul Beach, Community Outreach Business Partner from Homewatch CareGivers Home Care. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Dennise, tell me a little bit about the business.
Sure. We're in a non-medical home care business here in Naperville, and what our goal is to really help our families be able to stay in their houses, stay safe, people say, well, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? And we say, well, what would you do for your family? Sometimes it's helping with meals and shopping and taking them to appointments. And then there's the other things that you don't want to do for your family, which is bathing and toileting and dressing. So that kind of gives you an idea of all the things that we do.
Well, it's a wide range, and it's an important part of what we need these days with mom and dad and aging, or with somebody that has an adult disabled kid and you need some respite care. So it's important, very much. Tell me a little bit about how the role of the community plays for your business. You were a recent recipient of a Naperville JC's Award, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well deserved. So tell me a little bit about community.
I've just been really lucky. I've lived in the Naperville area and worked here for about 30 years. I was an administrator at Edward Hospital. And while I was there, one of the things I did was always be involved in communities and boards. And when I was starting this company, I said, what can we do that I'm still able to help people, but also be involved in the community? Because one of the things I find is that when people are looking for help, they really want to know who they're asking for help. They're looking for a resource. So I'm at that stage of life myself right now where I'm working tons. I have 4 kids, and I have an aging parent that needs help and a parent that just passed away. So I think just by being in the community, you just never know. People know what I do now, and I feel like they can ask me anything. Whether it's about home care or finding other facilities or communities, Paul and I, we just really try to be resources.
And that's awesome, because sometimes I think it's just that first encounter with somebody friendly who understands where you're going, what you're going through, and then suddenly the bond moves. How did you get involved with Dennise?
Well, it's funny because it kind of goes right on that kind of train of thought. Yeah. I personally had the experience of my parents needing a caregiver. Now, they were on the East Coast, and I was here in the Midwest. So I had the guilt of not being there with my parents. So I also found out how important caregiving was. So I knew the importance of people coming in and taking care of your loved ones. Through that, I started to play it forward and do things of volunteering at my church. And from that, I was introduced to Dennise. And Dennise is just a wonderful person. So she asked me if we wanted to come on board and help her out, and I thought it was a great idea.
That's awesome, because I too am in that stage of life, and I have a dad, and I'm in that stage, and it just becomes a little bit of an unofficial club.
It is. Yeah.
It is, and we keep welcoming new people to the club, and that's where you come in so importantly with what you do, because I can welcome in the club, I can support it, but you've got the resources.
Well, you're right, and you kind of bring up an important point too. It's a club that I don't think all of us ever expected to be in, right? You think about, growing up and getting a job and maybe getting married or having kids. No one says, oh my gosh, you're going to probably be taking care of your parents. And not only are you going to be taking care of them, they don't want you to take care of them, right? So I think that we're kind of in this unique position, and, we have tons of stories, but for the most part, a lot of times when family members call us in, we have to break it in gently that we're going to be helping, and sometimes they'll introduce me as their daughter's friend who's just stopping by to say hello and kind of build that relationship, because, our parents they're independent. They want to be independent. They think they can do everything on their own. So it is a tricky club, really, to be a part of.
Well, and I think you brought up an interesting point. We have to kind of bring it in. When I first started down the road with both my parents, it was a part-time situation. That's why I had to introduce it, a little help here and there.
Yeah.
And then they got used to it, and they actually grew to enjoy that person coming and chatting with them. And when that person switched, they're like, I can't believe she left. Oh my God, you were so much trouble. And you're like, I can't believe she left. So, but how do people start with you on that service? And then, how do they pay for it? Because that's the other concern too.
Sure. Well, and as far as there's a couple different ways that people will access us, a lot of times it is word of mouth or personal referral. Websites people check and they, kind of see what's going on. But the first thing people usually do is then they call our office. And we have several care managers in the office who really spend be prepared, 20, 30, 40 minutes, sometimes an hour, just really listening about what's going on. And then we have an idea of what we may need to do, and then we schedule an in-home assessment. And that's really to meet the family member and really lay eyes, see what's going on, and then also see what the housing situation is like. How safe is the house? What will we be doing for transferring or cooking, et cetera? So once that happens, we develop a care plan. And it lists specifically all the things that need to be done and what the person's normal routine is. I mean, what the goal is for home care is not to just completely swoop in and take care of them. It's to help people take care of themselves too. And what you said about people loving their caregivers, that really does happen.
No, it does.
And it takes such a burden off the family, because the family should really be there to enjoy their parents or enjoy their spouse in some cases, not be doing all of that work. So what you end up finding is that the caregiving child or the caregiving spouse is just always in a better mood because they don't have all that going on. But then that's how we start care, and then we set up a schedule. We're super flexible, and that kind of gets to your point you were making about how you pay for it.
Yeah.
In general, home care or any care that's needed, for seniors can be expensive. And so what you really need to do is plan ahead. The positive things are for home care is that if you have a long-term care insurance policy, it's wonderful. If people have it, that's the first thing we ask. The other thing is that if a parent or their spouse was a veteran, that's another great benefit. In fact, the first time I found out about that and I knew my dad was a veteran, I started telling everybody at a party, make sure you ask if people are veterans. And then the third thing that's getting to be really exciting is that the Medicare Advantage plans are starting to add non-medical home care, because Medicare really wants us to stay out of the hospital, and they realize that by having home care in your house where you're able to keep people, safer, well-fed, healthier, taking their medicine, will avoid those hospitalizations. So that just started in 2019. And that is a question we get a lot. Does Medicare pay for this? And the answer is it's starting to. So we'll work with families. The other thing we do to try to make it more affordable is to be creative on scheduling. Sometimes people are saying, I would love to have somebody here all day. Well, then you have to think about, you're having one-on-one care all day. Is that really necessary? We never over-prescribe care. We say, what does the family need? When's the busiest times? When will people be safest? And what can they afford? And try to put together a program for them.
There are many services to choose from in this arena. What makes yours different?
Well, that's a great question, and I won't be too cliche about it, but it actually is the people. And Dennise has done a great job of cultivating a culture within Homewatch. I've seen that in the industry, Homewatch caregivers go through like a 60% turnover rate, typically in their companies. Dennise has cultivated a business where she's at as low as 20%. Why that's important is that we keep good people. And as we were talking about, there's a comfort level that the clients and families have if you have the same caregiver. Now, Dennise also will educate these caregivers, so they are continually upping their game. It's so important. It really is. In addition to that, there's also an empathy throughout the whole company. So we have an after-hours phone. So if somebody needs to call and get help, or a caregiver there's an issue with it, they have to call an after-hours phone. Everybody in the company will have that phone for 1 week. That's important because we all are now connected, not only with our caregivers, but also with our clients. And I think that permeates the company itself. And I think our residents, our clients, our families feel that.
I think it's so important. The caregiver in the home becomes an extension of the family.
It's true.
And if you're lucky, which I'm sure that all of yours are this way, you love it when your parent introduces their caregiver and says, hey, this is my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, personal experience, that's exactly what I went through with my family. It's so important to have that comfort level. And I think Dennise has done a great job of having the caregivers that do that, and we do have that connection with our families.
So thank you so much for what you do. You're changing the way people are living, and everybody's living happier. So thank you. We're going to be right back with more Business Connections. Stay tuned.